Hello everyone, welcome back to Surekha Azure Hybrid Academy. In today's session, we are going to understand one of the most important technologies in the IT infrastructure world, that is Active Directory. If you want to become a Windows administrator, Azure administrator, cloud engineer, system engineer, or hybrid identity architect, then Active Directory is absolutely mandatory. In this complete guide, we will understand what Active Directory is, how DNS and DHCP work with AD, forests and domains, domain controllers, FSMO roles, group policy, trust relationships, functional levels, and finally how everything works together during a user login process. I will explain everything with simple real world examples so even beginners can understand clearly. So let's get started. Before we jump into the technical topics, let's first understand what we are going to learn. This session designed in a structured way. We will first learn the foundational technologies, Active Directory, DNS, DHCP, ADDS, AD services overview, and then forests and domains, child domains, functional levels, and then trust relationships, FSMO roles, group policy. Active Directory. What is Active Directory? Now let's understand the most important question. What is Active Directory? Active Directory is Microsoft's centralized directory services. Active Directory is Microsoft's centralized directory service. In simple words, it is the brain of the entire Windows enterprise network. Instead of managing users, computers, passwords, permissions, policies separately on each mission, everything we are controlling from centralized location. For example, imagine a company with 5,000 employees. They don't have Active Directory. So, to manage each user and their mission server, what we have to do? We have to go to each mission. Administrator has to go to each mission and create the username and password, and then that user can log in. And also he has to assign the permission. In each mission, in 5,000 missions, administrators has to create the username, create the password, assign the permissions, configure security settings. Everything has to do manually if there is no Active Directory. So for these all, we can resolve with Active Directory. So let's understand with real world example. Suppose an employee named John joins the company. The administrator creates John's account once in Active Directory. So once that administrator will provide his login and password. After that he can change the password and he can use that ID and password to log into the laptop, servers, Outlook, printers and company applications with that single account. This is called centralized identity management. AD core functions at a glance. Here we have four major functions in Active Directory. Identity management, authentication, authorization, policy enforcement. Identity management, it maintains a searchable database for all user accounts, computers and objects in the organization. Authentication, it verifies user credentials using protocols like Kerberos and TLM. We will go through these protocols later. It verifies that user credentials, verifies the user ID before allowing network access. Authorization, it controls resource access based on user roles, group memberships and applied security policies. Policy enforcement, it applies group policy objects to manage desktop settings, software and security rules across the domain. DNS. DNS, Domain Name System, is the translation service that converts human readable domain names into IP addresses and IP addresses into domain names. In an Active Directory environment, DNS is not optional, it is mandatory. It is a hard requirement. Clients depend on DNS to locate domain controllers, and AD replication and authentication rely on DNS records being accurate and up to date. Here the DNS functions are converts domain names into IP addresses, and also it helps clients locate domain controllers, enables AD site and replication topology required for Kerberos authentication. Here we have mainly 3 DNS records are there. Those are A record. It maps host names into IPv4 address. For example, there is a domain name called Google. You all are aware of that Google, right? Google.com. That A record will convert that google.com into IP address. PTR record, it is the reverse. It converts IP into the host name. Server record, SRV record, that also called as server record. It locates AD services like LDAP and Kerberos. Why DNS is non-negotiable for AD? Without properly configured DNS, workstations cannot find domain controllers. Logins fail and replication between DCs breaks down. Active Directory and DNS are tightly coupled. Treat DNS health as a top priority in any AD environment. If DNS is not working properly, means Active Directory also will not function. Logins fail, user cannot log into the system, and also that replication from one server to one domain controller to other domain controller, that replication also will get an issues. That is the reason DNS health is the most important. DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, automating IP address assignment across your network. DHCP eliminates the need for manual IP configuration by automatically assigning network parameters to every device that joins the network. This dramatically reduces administrative overhead and configuration errors in large enterprise environments. Here also we will take that example of 5,000 employees in a company. In that they will be having 5,000 servers will be there. So to function that system, we need the IP address on each mission, right? So if there is no DHCP, that admin has to go each and every mission, he has to assign the IP address. Here he has to assign the IP address, that is one drawback, and also there is a manual errors, means he can assign one IP address here and he has to assign another IP there. Like this he has to assign, and there is a misconflict, means same IP he can assign, he can forget and he can assign the same IP address in other mission, right? Because 5,000 missions means it is not imaginable to manually giving IP address on each server. So that is the reason DHCP is the most important for assigning IP addresses automatically. What DHCP assigns? DHCP assigns IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, DNS server address. If you'll open your laptop and if you'll type ipconfig/all, you will get IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, DNS server address, right? On top you will see DHCP assigned IP address. You can see that sentence also on top. A laptop connects to the corporate Wi-Fi within seconds. DHCP automatically assigns a valid IP address, subnet mask, gateway and DNS server. No IT intervention required. So here we no need to go manually and assign the IP address. The DHCP will take care of assigning IP address on the device. Once that device is immediately ready to communicate to the network, means once you plug into the network cable or if you will configure Wi-Fi, it will get the IP address from that DHCP server. What is the process of DHCP? DORA: discover, offer, request, acknowledge. For discover means client broadcasts a request looking for any available DHCP server. First what will happen? Client is requesting, hey, any DHCP server is available near to me. Then DHCP server responds with an available IP address and configuration. Then DHCP will tell, yes, I am available here. I have the IP address. I can give this IP I'll configure the IP. Okay, then client formally requests the offered IP address from the server. Client manually requests the offered IP address from the server. Then server confirms the lease and the client applies the configuration. Okay, like this DORA process will complete.